You're listening to episode number 16 of the Wellness Real Estate Podcast. Are you a real estate agent who is trying to understand how you can stand out in this saturated marketplace? Or maybe you're wondering how you can infuse your values into your business so that people know how you are different. Today, I have Christina Laney Mitre from Smart Living Hawaii on the show, and she's sharing her story of how she started Smart Living Hawaii and how she differentiates herself as a forward-thinking agent with eco and sustainable expertise. Her story is so inspiring, and I love how she just followed her heart and has ended up meeting other community leaders and now has positioned herself as a leader with a network of service providers that is pretty unique in the state of Hawaii. As the industry is shifting towards wellness, how will you stand out? If you're curious, you'll love learning about Christina's story, and hopefully it will inspire you to new thoughts about your own journey. Let's grow. Welcome to the Real Estate Marketing Podcast, where we explore a unique strategy no one is talking about that will enable you to engage more people with authentic conversations about your business more often. And it's called Wellness Real Estate. Not sure what that is or how it can help you as an agent? Well, that's what this podcast is all about. In fact, Wellness Real Estate is growing so rapidly that it is projected to be nearly $870 billion by 2027. I'm Sheila Alston, and I'm your host. I'm also the founder of Healthy Home Media, where I help agents all over the country leverage this new trend in the industry to spark new conversations that will get people to listen to you and notice your brand. So if you're tired of spinning your wheels without any leads or sales to show for it, then stay tuned. I guarantee this podcast is not like any you've heard before. Welcome to the Wellness Real Estate Podcast. Okay, I'm super excited. I've got Christina Laney Mitre here from Smart Living Hawaii. Welcome.
Hi. How
I'm
you
so
doing?
glad you're here. Good. So I want to hear all about Smart Living Hawaii. I know that you're a real estate agent, but tell me, how did that start for you? How did you decide you wanted to even have the name Smart Living Hawaii?
So it kind of began a while back, and it was more of a lifestyle brand that I wanted to start because I'm more on like a health kick and fitness, and it was more of, I guess, a lifestyle of how I lived, and I wanted to somehow connect real estate to a more personal level without being like a typical Facebook all about yourself and your kids and stuff. So I was wanting to go along the lines of the things I really enjoyed, and that was more lifestyle. So it started that way, and then when I started doing that, it kind of led into different things that overlap to sustainability. And when that happened, I had a client of mine, they were looking to partner with a brand that was a lifestyle brand that kind of had similar goals because they were focused on ADUs and small footprint living. And that concept was in line with the lifestyle brand that we had. And so they said, hey, can you start a podcast and we'll post it? And I was like, oh, what? A podcast? I don't even know how to do that. And I was like, what? But the podcast that they did, they said, we'll do like the first 5 and then see how it goes. But they did like recordings and video, and they stripped the audio and made the podcast, and it was much more of a bigger ordeal. And I picked 5 different areas of focus that were geared to, fitness and affordable housing and agriculture. So we kind of picked all these different topics, and I did 5 different ones. And it was probably an easy $1,000 a pop to do each of those.
Wow.
That they, funded. And so once I did that and I prepped for it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is really cool, but I only have 5. So we were like, how can I do this and continue this on? And so I literally just bought a mic, and it was more of an expensive mic, and that's probably the coolest thing I have for my podcast right now. And then I just ran with it, found something online, and just started recording with different sustainable leaders, because it really led me to sustainability after doing it, and how much I would learn from every interview was very intriguing. So it kind of was a rabbit hole down this path. And after talking to people in sustainability, I learned so much more about what Hawaii is doing, and then their areas of focus, and how I was wondering, how is it that I know nothing about this? And this is an initiative that Hawaii has started, and we're supposed to have clean energy by 2045. And there's all of these things that the government statewide is doing, even county-wise, to reach these goals. And I don't know about it. So then that, yeah, and so the areas of focus are, housing is one of them. And a lot of people kind of forget that because they're more focused on agriculture. We produce very little food here in Hawaii. We probably import about 90 to 95% of our agriculture and food that comes into Hawaii, right? So we're solely dependent on imports that come in. And then, so to mitigate that, we're trying to figure out ways where we can produce more food here locally, statewide. So that's an initiative as well. We also have environment, and that's just the procurement of endangered species, our, ecosystem and everything here, because as most feel, it is paradise, and we want to keep it pristine and keep it the way it is. So that's a whole nother aspect as well. And we have an ecosystem that could actually survive on its own, year round, providing food and everything like that. So this whole holistic mindset of where Hawaii could actually be a prototype to live this way, with being the furthest away from any other landmass in, I think, the world, would be a big statement across the world, right? If we can do this with the urban city core of like about 1 million people, it's something that the world could do and be sustainable doing. So that was one thing too, in addition to energy, in addition to all these different areas, and culture being a big one for Hawaii. So these 5 sectors really are what Hawaii is focused on, and at the state level, to where they do push legislation through and they are working towards. So it's an interesting dynamic because a lot of states don't have it. They don't have the opportunity to have the state on board, with a lot of these new initiatives that are coming down the pike. So when it comes to building and energy efficient homes and green build, we're really moving forward and as quickly as you can, because we're really behind. But because of this kind of movement that we're getting the support from the government, then things are starting to fall into place. And because the community wants it, which is the 3 pieces, right? It's the state, community, and business sector. When the people want it, then the business starts to move to what the people want. And since the state is involved, then all 3 of these initiatives are kind of starting to try to work together. And I feel like we will make progress much sooner than a lot of states. So I got involved after learning all this and trying to share as much of this with our local people here, in addition to like you across the country, because there's a lot of things that other states are doing that are far more progressive than what we're doing. But at the same time, there's things that we're progressive in, and we can all share and help. And whatever we're doing, we can learn and help other people learn, and vice versa. So that's kind of my avenue that I'm trying to go at when I'm reaching past the state of Hawaii. So.
Wow. I mean, that's so interesting. Did you find that, when you said that, I know that the government is mandating some of these changes, but you did say that the community is wanting this. Do you think that they are learning it from your podcast, and how are they learning about, what is coming down the pipeline, and how do you know that it's something that they want?
So it's a collaboration of things. I wouldn't say I have a ton of followers yet on podcasts, but the people that I connect with, and I think the point of our nonprofit is really just a neutral ground where all those areas can, whether it's secular or non-secular, sustainability, the state, the counties, a neutral ground to where everybody can come to one place and find a way to make things work, right? And a lot of times it's not everybody's at the table because maybe it's focused on spiritual or church or something, right? So then it limits. Or if it's just the state pushing it out, then you have less community involved, right? That just happens a lot. If it's a big business, then there's certain people that push back with cultural differences or whatnot. So I'm trying to make it where, hey, let's come up with common goals and have a neutral space to discuss
and
it.
That's what your foundation does?
That's the goal. Like, we're going to be working on there's a bike path that's miles stretched long, and it's kind of been run down. It hasn't been cleaned up for a couple years due to COVID. So there's a lot of businesses that run along this path. There's a lot of homeless that have taken camps up, and areas that are a little more dangerous, I would say, and very fearful for people to be even using the bike path. But it also is a good transportation from point A to point B without going on top of an actual road, right? So families would use it a lot, and now it's getting a little run down. It's close to the water, and it has a historical background and everything. But this would be a really great opportunity to do a cleanup. So we're going to be doing a cleanup in April, but we're also going to connect with a whole bunch of community initiatives. So different organizations that already work on the path, businesses that sit front, storefront on the path, and in the city and the state, and the Navy really runs that perimeter on the harbor. So it's really tying a lot of pieces together to bring this back to life, which is also based on community, and there's houses and homes and people that live on it that want to use it, right? So however we can get that going, those are the kinds of things I guess I'm most passionate about, because it's pulling everybody together.
Right.
Yeah.
And so how are you infusing this into your real estate business, or how is it completely separate?
It's been separate, and I think for a lot of people that are passionate about something that doesn't seem to tie in with real estate, they find it hard to bridge the gap. So I would say in the last couple years, I've been realizing how much real estate does play into sustainability, and there are definitely different areas of focus that I've realized it does, and how much of my business ties into it. And more of it, I would say, is working with our clients and educating them on what's out there when it comes to sustainable green builds and green homes and green options. Energy efficiency to save on money is a big thing, and a lot of this that we learn, and trust me, it's a lot to learn, as right? It's one of those things that you just keep doing over time, and you keep on learning, and it's a process where eventually you're like, oh, I know about that. Or if I don't know about it, then you just go to the experts that know about it, and then I interview them or bring them on or ask them questions or have them write an article and feature them, right? And that way you're not taking on that responsibility on yourself, but you're learning, and you're also promoting another local business usually. And then that person or that business then builds that rapport and trust with you, and then they become like one of your, I wouldn't say vendors, but partners, right, in this sustainable path that we're on. And whenever real estate comes up, and the longer you build these relationships with all these different people and businesses, then the more like you're top of mind. And the one thing that I think I've always been hesitant about with real estate is the cheesy car salesman that everybody thinks we are. And you kind of just like get slapped that, that's real estate, and you're in it for the money. But when they see that you're very passionate about these type of things, and the focus starts to change, and they get to see who you are as a person, and like your real genuine self, and your initiatives and the things you're doing. When it comes to real estate, and they're thinking like, who am I going to use? I mean, everybody knows what at least 7 different realtors, and in the top of their head, supposedly is what I've heard. You want to be the most ethical and educated person these days, right? So, I
Yeah,
mean,
someone that they can trust, and they know that
yeah.
if you have the community first, and you're putting the community first, you're putting your clients first, not your self-interest first, then they know that they can trust you. That's amazing.
So, I mean, I can't say that it's always small little things that lead to either building the relationships with people. And I know through time, like ideally, I would love to be recognized as Smart Living Hawaii Real Estate Team. And we are the go-to people for all of these different, focuses and niche market. But I can't say we're there yet. I mean, California, you guys are way more advanced than us when it comes to green build. But in 10 years from now, I could see us being that way because our building code and our energy code is behind, but now they're mandating these things to where this is the way you have to build. So properties that are being built now have to be built that way, and in 10 years from now, it's going to matter.
Yeah.
And that's where I would like to already be 10 years in of like knowing all this and being here. Because at the end of the day, they're going to want to come to people that are educated on solar. They're going to want to, if they're going to sell or buy a home that has all of these features, they're going to need to know somebody that can sell it properly. Because right now, we're selling PV, I would say, is the biggest green side to things and the biggest money maker, right? And understanding between solar leased and not leased, and understanding having net metering in versus not, and the different programs that they have and all of that, it's a lot of money. I mean, it could be anywhere from $200 to $1,000 a month that you're saving by having it. So
yeah, but I do think that it's wonderful. You have a wonderful opportunity, and I love that you have a podcast and that you're doing this foundation for the whole community of where you live, and for everybody in Hawaii to learn about sustainability. Just because even in California, we might have a lot of regulations, but I don't think that people necessarily ask for a green home. They just want a newer home, and maybe it's because of the features and because of how it looks and more aesthetics than it is because of. I mean, if you talk about the benefits and you say that these green homes, all these energy efficient features are going to save you money, then of course they want that. But I think that in 10 years time, people will be looking for the wellness agent around them. I mean, that's my goal, is for people to understand that not all agents are alike. There's agents like you that understand the differences between some of these energy efficient features and what to look for on home inspections, besides just the regular mold or, and to just understand some of the air filtration, water filtration options that are out there. And not to say that as a realtor, you need to be the expert on everything, because clearly, we're not, but just to have those resources as like our realtor toolkit or something. So we have a green appraiser on hand. We have a home biologist on hand. We have these people that we can draw from their expertise to help our client find and make better choices that, it's not a home that just checks the boxes, but it's a home that actually is going to be more comfortable, more joyful to live in. It's going to save them money, and a place where they can live for a really long time.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, is that you build, if this is something you want to do, like as a realtor, right, and you're kind of hesitant, I think the biggest thing is you just have to dive in, get your NAR green designation first, I would say, because that will definitely get your feet wet as to what you're diving into. But from there, you just start to, every time you have another question, you contact another vendor or another business in that area of expertise, and they're more than happy to help, because at the end of the day, that could be business for them when you connect them with another, a client of yours. And in addition to that, I've been reaching out to the state and city, and there's Hawaii Energy is a big one here, who gets funding from so our energy company, HECO, Hawaiian Electric, there's a portion of everybody's amount of money that that they pay their bills, a portion of it goes to Hawaii Energy, and Hawaii Energy's job is to offset costs and also promote energy efficiency and things of that sort. So they have a lot of money to help just the local demographic, if it's retrofitting your light bulbs to LEDs, just different things like that. There's a lot of rebates that they have, so we work with them. And if they just started this program with realtors, and they're trying to work with a lot of vendors across the panel. So whether it's people that do solar, or people that are installing split AC systems that are efficient, or whether it's someone who is like a realtor and it's a green realtor, they have certifications, and then you can be up on their vendor list and stuff like that. So there's a lot of things that are happening here that I think would be really cool to see elsewhere, and vice versa. So yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what was that else I was going to ask you? I was going to say, your clients, do you find that they are asking you questions that have to do with sustainability now that they know that, you have a lot of this knowledge? Or do you find that people they don't really care? There's some green agents that think that, people don't care about that stuff. And I like to think that it's because we're just not educating them on the benefits, because I was talking to somebody who was from Pearl Certification, and he said, I went into a room and just said, who wants a house that is more comfortable, has less toxins, has no mold, and feels good and saves you money every month? And every single person raised their hand,
I mean, who wouldn't, right? I mean, why would you say no?
Yeah, exactly. So he's like, it's all about in how you communicate these benefits to people. And if you're talking about the R4 insulation or whatever the numbers are, and it just goes over people's heads, and I also think there's a misconception that some of these energy features are really expensive options. And I know that that was probably the case maybe 10 or 15 years ago, but costs have come way down. So, I think it's a great opportunity for realtors, because we're in people's homes, to be able to just make suggestions and talk about how some of these things can make your home more comfortable to live in, but also save you money and increase the value when you go to sell.
Yeah. So when it comes to, I would say recently, the number one thing that I feel people will come to us right off the bat is solar. So Hawaii, obviously, yes, we get a lot of sun year round, but there's also a lot of benefits in Hawaii that are still around to put solar up. So we still do have a federal and state credit. I believe the federal credit is expected to end the end of this year, but there is talks about extending it, especially with the new administration. I could see that happening. So that is just something that people ask all the time. Now, because we had such a big boom in solar, we've had so many people put leased solar up, which when you're a realtor, you really need to understand the differences between this, because it could be a big hindrance. I actually had done an article not too long ago specifically on solar, and comparing leased and non-leased, and also solar water heaters. So in Hawaii, I believe in 2015, it was mandated that any new home has to have a solar water heater and cannot have regular water heaters anymore. So moving forward, that's something that's pretty common. And the cost of doing it here in Hawaii, it's about 40% of someone's electricity bill. So if they don't actually have one up and they aren't doing solar, things like this matter, right, with your monthly expenses. So people are starting to ask about it. They're starting to learn more about it, because every home has it. So now they need to realize, like, oh, and then they hear right from their friends, oh, someone had solar, but then it was leased. And then they're like, it doesn't even save you that much. And da 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 da. And then they want to try to find out about it. So now in Hawaii too, there was net metering done. And that was a while back now. But if you had gotten PV photovoltaic system on your house prior to that net meter date, right? You basically have free energy. I mean, I wouldn't say free energy, but when basically what happens is Hawaii Electric, the energy company that we have here, they basically, by law, it's grandfathered in. They have to buy the power from you, what you make from the sun, at the same rate that they're selling it to people. Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
But so that means at any given time, no matter what happens in the future and how high it is, because we're at like, I think 31 cents per kilowatt hour or something like that, which is really high from other places. If they now have programs where it's about half that, so they only pay you 15 cents when they sell it for 31 cents. So now when you're looking at it, do you guys have that in place in San Diego?
And I know that there's a difference on like they buy power watt, they buy the wattage from you during the day, but then at night, if you don't have a battery, you're buying it back from them. And I don't know.
At a higher price, right? Or do you have that yet?
But I know that it's not the same. It used to be, like you said, if you were grandfathered in, basically, you know, it would be free, right? You wouldn't get any bills at all. And now they've worked it. So I still think the bills are very low. It wouldn't be a reason to not get solar.
Of course.
But yeah, but they've put in some fees in there, so you won't have a zero bill.
Well, now it's like, so if you're not grandfathered in and you're getting solar, it's like you end up getting more solar than your capacity of your home and then have storage, right? So then you're always just generating your own electricity, and then you can store whatever you don't have. So you don't have to buy it back from HECO. So those kinds of things are starting to matter. I mean, our house in Pearl City, which is a very hot area, my parents, they got 4 systems, 64 panels, and grandfathered in. Their bill was reaching about $700 a month just on electricity, and now it's down to like just whatever it costs to be hooked up to HECO, which is under $50 now. But that could be $700 a month that you're saving. And when you're dealing with a luxury home, trust me, it's much more than that. You're probably looking at like $1,000 to $1,500. And if you're AC in that bad boy, it's a lot. So yeah, these are things. So even on the luxury market, you know, you think, well, they have a lot of money. Does it really matter? There are some of the few people that are asking a lot about this stuff, right? They care about it too.
Yeah. So. Wow. Okay. So thank you so much. I appreciate you being on the show. And if anybody wants to learn more about Smart Living Hawaii, how can they do that?
Well, you can check us out we have 2 different sites. One's for our nonprofit. So if you're interested in learning, or you're like green to green on sustainability and what Hawaii's up to, you can go to www.smartlivinghi.org. If you are curious about real estate in Hawaii, and then also focused on anything green or affordable housing, ag land, farmland, things like that, you can go to our regular website for real estate, which is the same thing, just .com. So smartlivinghi.com. And we're on Instagram and Facebook for both, so you can check us out there too. So yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much, Christina. I appreciate you being on. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you learned something new that will inspire you to think about your branding and how you can market yourself a little differently. If you enjoyed this episode, then you're going to love what I have for you, because you don't need to wait to go get extra certifications or to grow and expand your network to get started attracting those new leads right now. You can simply begin by talking about wellness real estate trends and what you've learned on this podcast with others. I mean, this is pretty interesting stuff that no one has heard about, and I have all the tools that can make it even easier for you. Wellness Real Estate Magazine is a brand new wellness lifestyle magazine, and it's the only magazine that brings health and home together. We educate readers on industry trends and how to create a healthier home environment, written by industry experts around the country. And we have 3 covers to choose from: Wellness RE, Healthy Home, and Wellness at Home, so you can easily find one that aligns with your unique brand and messaging. These magazines are the perfect done-for-you tools that help you not only stay top of mind, but they educate and engage your audience, which positions you as an industry expert. Differentiate yourself and grow your brand the easy way. Learn more at healthyhomemedia.com.